Donald Trump's latest attack on his own Republican Party is a hilarious meltdown, but it also reveals three very critical things about these upcoming midterms. The first, Donald Trump and the GOP are absolutely terrified. They know a massive loss is coming, which is exactly why they are desperately trying to gerrymander the entire South right now. But the second thing this tells us is that Trump, deep down, doesn't actually care about the party's success. He wouldn't be lighting his own house on fire and attacking fellow Republicans if he were truly worried about the outcome for the country. We are going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. And that brings us to the most important third takeaway. Donald Trump isn't worried about Republicans losing the House or the Senate. He's worried about how those losses will reflect on him and his iron grip over the party. He's realized the walls are closing in, and that is why, more than anyone else, Trump is currently furious with MAGA. We are going to dive into his latest assault on the Senate after they dared to rebuke his latest plan. But I actually want to start with what they are moving forward with right now. Something that should have every single one of us furious before we even get to Trump's latest tantrum. GOP offers $1 billion for White House security, sparking dispute over Ballroom. Senate Republicans maintain their proposal would authorize security construction but not Trump's Ballroom. The White House disagrees. Senate Republicans late Monday proposed $1 billion to pay for new White House security measures, with lawmakers and White House officials disagreeing over whether the legislation would cover Donald Trump's Ballroom. Senator Chuck Grassley, chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, laid out a funding package for security upgrades related to the East Wing Modernization Project, the Trump administration's name for its planned 90,000 square foot project to rebuild the East Wing that Trump demolished last year. The proposed legislative text says the money would be used for both above-ground and underground security features that the administration has declined to fully detail. The text explicitly says the money could not be used for non-security elements of the project, a reference to Donald Trump's Ballroom. The legislative proposal comes amid a legal battle over whether the project can proceed, with U.S. District Judge Richard Leon last month ordering a halt to above-ground construction on the Ballroom unless Congress authorizes the project, saying that the work related to national security can continue. An appeals court panel has stayed Leon's order while it considers the case. So Republicans in the Senate are actually moving forward with $1 billion for Donald Trump's Ballroom. Now let's not get it twisted. Even though they're trying to frame this as national security and protection of the White House, we know better. That was the whole point of Trump's little charade after the White House Correspondents' Dinner, wasn't it? The entire goal was to frame this vanity project as a security necessity. So don't believe for a second that Republicans aren't planning to fully fund this gold-plated monstrosity. They've been looking for an excuse to do it, and they were absolutely thrilled to use some very sketchy events as their new talking point. But here's the funny part. Donald Trump isn't even mad at Republicans for questioning the Ballroom, because they aren't. He's furious over the SAVE Act. Trump is having a meltdown because he's losing his grip. Republican voters are starting to push back on everything, and even Fox News is starting to show the cracks. Republicans in the Senate are finally starting to defy him, and it is making Trump absolutely lose his mind. We're going to get into that freak out in a second, but first, take a look at this.
Because I feel like the change that I was expecting from the president himself, I don't feel in my everyday life, which is concerning to me. I still feel, obviously, that, prices are very, very, very high. If you're going to the grocery store or just in general, because inflation still exists. Unfortunately, now we have the higher gas prices, which really hurt, everyday people in their pocket. And I've voted my entire life. And the frustration right now is, it's just unbelievable because what really changes? I just feel like that we're kind of, kind of steering the ship in the same direction.
Look, if even the handpicked, supposed non-partisan voters on Fox are saying that Donald Trump is screwing up, then he has a massive problem on his hands. Let's be real about who these people are. They're about as authentic as that DoorDash grandma. These aren't people with independent thoughts or real input. They are vetted and selected by Fox to fit a narrative. So, if even they are showing signs of being pissed off, it tells you that Donald Trump's outlook for the midterms is absolutely catastrophic. And that is exactly why he is desperate. He's currently begging Republicans to abolish the filibuster and calling them idiots if they don't help him ram through the SAVE Act. We saw it in the Oval Office today. Donald Trump openly attacking his own party because they won't follow him off the cliff.
The filibuster, Mr. President, you posted a lot about wanting to eliminate the filibuster. It hasn't happened. Are you disappointed in leadership?
Yeah, no, I'm disappointed. I like John a lot, but he has a couple of Republicans that are foolish people. A couple of them I like, a couple of them I can't stand, actually, if you want to know the truth. Although I am, according to CNN, 100% approval within the Republican Party. That's better than your record, Gary. I'm at 100% approval. Did you see the CNN poll? Nobody talks about it. CNN, I think the people that did that poll probably got fired. But within the Republican Party and MAGA, which is basically 100% of the party, I think, but 100%.
Now, here is what's actually more fascinating about that clip than just Trump calling Senate Republicans foolish. And we all know he really meant idiots. I want Jessica Tarlov to tear into the SAVE Act in just a second. But what really stands out to me is Trump's delusional insistence that he has a 100% approval rating with MAGA. We know for a fact that is a lie. The data shows the exact opposite. Donald Trump is bleeding support every single day. And it's not just the moderate Republicans. It's the people who traditionally identified as MAGA Republicans, the core of his cult coalition. They are beginning to break away. Think about why figures like Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, or Candace Owens get such an explosion of popularity when they, even tentatively, criticize this administration. It's because there is a massive contingency of Republicans who are actually hungry for someone to push back against Donald Trump. They enjoy the infighting. They like seeing the administration called out. So when Trump claims he has 100% support while looking ahead to the midterms, what he's really doing is masking his fear. He's terrified of races like Thomas Massey's primary. Trump has endorsed Massey's opponent, he's holding rallies for him, and tens of millions of dollars are being poured in to defeat Massey. If Massey wins, it exposes Trump's ultimate weakness. It proves he no longer has total control over the GOP. It proves they don't all just fall in line anymore. Republicans are looking at the near future, the midterms, and the long-term future, the post-Trump world of 2028. They're realizing that now is the time to start creating distance. In the past, only a few like Lisa Murkowski or Susan Collins would even pretend to do that. But now that's a reliable lane. A new coalition is forming, and Trump knows it. His obsession with the SAVE Act isn't just about voter suppression because he's scared of the midterms, though he definitely is. It's about demanding total subservience. He wants to know he can still inflict enough pain on his own party to keep them in line. That's always been his move. But the SAVE Act itself is a total scam, and Jessica Tarlov is about to give us a perfect reminder of why it's absolute garbage.
Well, I think you would have a Democrat who would say, let's do voter ID, but that's not actually what the SAVE Act is. So Jim Clyburn's talked about this, and he said, I'm for voter ID. I'm not for disproportionate voter ID. And what the SAVE Act does is that it requires that you either have your birth certificate or your passport, which is different than accepting a driver's license, for instance. And the reason for that...
I don't know if that's true.
It is true. Read the bill.
Okay, I will.
I'm sorry, that might hurt you.
And then tomorrow we'll have to correct it.
Well, I won't be here,
there's no
so you can give it to Harold.
There's no way this bill requires people to show up with their birth certificates. Then Barack couldn't register.
That's disgusting, first of all.
We believe he's American.
There is a very strong case, actually, that the SAVE Act will hurt more Republicans than it will Democrats. So the people who will be most affected... So why wouldn't you want to do it? Fine. Let's go, baby.
If you want me to explain, I can, but... Sure. I mean, so President Trump is basically saying that the SAVE Act as it's written, he's like, look, don't try to sink the DHS funding for that. He's for real ID, but so are 85% of Americans for real ID. And it has to go through the committee process, et cetera. Don't shut down the government over it. We all agree there should be ID at the voting booth.
Oh, yeah. I'm not even talking about the DHS funding fight. I'm talking about the fact that if you look at estimates right now, so 21 million Americans don't have ready access to either their passport or their birth certificate. 50% of Americans don't have a passport at all. If you want to talk about who has a passport versus who doesn't, we can get into that and where they might vote. Then on top of it, to your voter fraud idea, people do actually look into it. Even like the Heritage Foundation, very conservative, found 35 illegal aliens voted in 2024. Utah just did a review of 2 million people in their voter rolls, came up with one non-citizen registration and no non-citizen
Utah, try
voting.
California.
So getting rid of also universal mail-in voting, which is part of this, would affect a red state in Utah, Nevada that also voted for Trump.
The SAVE Act has always been absolute garbage. It's nothing but a desperate tool designed to keep people away from the polls. We know it, they know it, and the intent behind it couldn't be more obvious. But here is the thing we need to understand. As Democrats, we can't just sit back and say, well, we are anti-Trump, so we are the good guys. That's not enough. It's just not. Sure, being anti-Trump might be enough to flip the House, but the Senate is an entirely different story. We need a vision that is more ambitious, more forward-looking, and more aspirational. We need a brave vision that actually matches the moral clarity voters have in this exact moment. People aren't just looking for not Trump. They are looking for big systemic change. They are hungry for it. We saw one of those rare moments of real courage recently at the University of Michigan graduation. A professor stood up and spoke a truth that has all the worst people in this country absolutely losing their minds. And that's exactly where I want to end today, with a reminder of what real moral clarity looks like.
Sing for the pro-Palestinian student activists. Who have, over these past 2 years, opened our hearts to the injustice and inhumanity of Israel's war in Gaza.
Look at what just happened at the University of Michigan. A professor stands up, thanks multiple student activist groups, and praises the pro-Palestinian protests. He simply said that these students have opened our hearts to the reality of the violence the Israeli government is carrying out in Gaza. He didn't even use the word genocide, and yet the university is already moving to punish him. Everyone is losing their minds. This is exactly the type of establishment Democrats should be running against. Let's be real. This is an anti-establishment era. If we want to actually move the needle, we can't just be anti-Trump. We have to be anti-establishment. We have to stand against a system that will punish a professor simply for telling the truth and acknowledging human suffering. When the establishment is more concerned with silencing dissent than stopping a genocide, that is a system that has failed. That is the fight we should be having. It's not just about one man in the White House. It's about a corrupt structure that demands we stay silent in the face of atrocity. That is what we are going to be talking about on this show every single day. We aren't going to play the safe political games. If you want to support this kind of unfiltered anti-establishment commentary, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button right now and leave a like on this video. And for the real ones who stuck around until the very end to hear the truth, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Do not let them silence you. I am Liam Prescott and I'll see you in the next one.